Well, it's a lovely sunny day in the garden, and I'm going to show you how to tie some loops from your big loop down to your little tiny loop, and also something a little bit special, the easy way to tie an ultra short hook length of any length. Now, it's not something I've seen anyone else show, certainly not recently, and I thought it'd be useful because there's a lot of talk on the internet and stuff about how to tie 2 and 3 inch hook lengths. It's not something I use a lot, but it is a useful trick to have in your armory, tying really short hook lengths. So I'm going to show you how I tie loops, a few little tricks, things you might not have seen before, and might be a little bit more interesting than you think this. So anyway, I'm going to show you how to tie some loops. Without further ado, let's get started. Right, first of all, I'm going to use some normal 018 line, and I'm going to start by showing you how to tie loops by hand. Now, my loop tying, I used to use an overhand loop, or more specifically a double overhand loop for most of my fishing, pole rigs, waggler hook lengths, feeder fishing, everything. That a figure of 8 loop is at least 10% stronger, and because of the way it's tied, it doesn't bite into itself. So actually it's less of a constriction knot, and actually it will mean your rigs are better if you use a figure of 8 loop knot. So that's what I tend to use these days rather than overhand. I'll show you how to tie overhand loops, just so you know the difference. So I'll start off with overhand, double up the line, and then turn it over itself like so, and then you just pass that loop back in itself a couple of times, and there you are. That's your overhand loop. Now you could, now obviously with knots you always moisten every single knot, so you could moisten that, pull it tight, and you get a nice big loop. If you want to get it smaller, I got given these little jigs, and anything with two things a fixed distance apart will fix the loop the way you want it. So just put those in, and I'll just show you by putting them in each part of the loop, the top part and the middle part, the bottom part. Pull that down, you get a fixed loop. Now that's useful, very useful for getting nice little loops. We'll trim that. So there you are, that's a nice little loop, and a double overhand loop. There's nothing wrong with that knot, but a figure of 8 is fractionally probably 10% stronger if you did some knot tests. So that's what we're going to show you next. Now this is a figure of 8 loop knot. Again, we're just going to double up the line. It's just going to be a big loop for this. Double up the line as such, fold it over itself and pinch. So you've created a loop and then the top part of the loop. Then put your finger in, twist it round itself, and then pass the loop through. And there you are. Just show you that. There's your nice figure of 8 there. It actually slips a little bit. There you go. So when you've created that sort of 8 figure, you know you've got a loop that's not going to cut into itself like a lot of loops can. Okay, so what you do, you just moisten that tight and pull it. You've got a nice big loop. Trim that. There you are. Okay, and obviously you could prise that down and make a smaller loop, but what I do with a smaller loop, I use one of these, a loop tire, and very readily available in the tackle shops. And this style is perhaps the best I've used so far. I get a nice little one on the end, another one on the end. The cheaper versions, just it seems to catch a little bit on the top, so you get what you pay for with this, and that's a decent loop tire there. Now, I was shown this way of tying a loop by my good friend Neil McKinnon, Fishermania champion, and before then I couldn't tie using one of these devices. The instructions just weren't right for me. I couldn't follow the instructions very easily. Then he showed me a different way of using it, and that's the way I use it now. And I think if you master how to tie it this way, you'll realise just how easy it is. So let's look down and see what we've got. So we've got a loop there in the camera. What I'm going to do, fold it over itself again like that. And then we're just going to stick the loop tire device in the loop we've created, twist it round once, put it in the head of the loop tire, and then pull it tight. Okay, and then take it out. And at this point I would moisten it with a bit of saliva, and then I'd pull that down tight. But for the process of this, we're not going to bother with the moistening. And there you are, a nice little loop tied with that device, and you could create an even littler one with that head. So that's how we use the loop tire device, and that's a perfect figure of 8 loop. Job's a good one. So I'll show you that one more time. Just fold that over itself. I'm going to do it with a little loop tire this time. Yeah, a little loop tire this time. Put it in once, pull down, moisten and tighten. There you are, nice little loop. I'll show you one more time, because some people like to use double and treble figure of 8 loops. So to do a double or treble figure of 8, make your loop again like that. Put your head in once, twice, 3 times, back through, put it down tight. I'll moisten it this time because it's a bigger loop, just so you get a nice idea of what's happening. And we could pull that down a lot tighter and make it smaller. So, and that's a longer loop, and some people prefer a double or treble figure of 8 loop. Not personally. I've found a single is more than ample for all my rig tying. Sometimes I use a double out of habit, but generally a single is enough for, and plenty strong enough for all your fishing. It won't slip like a single overhand loop knot will slip, whereas a single figure of 8 loop knot won't slip. So so that's why I still stick with a single, because it's nice and neat. So a little thing I can show you there as well is making a bigger loop with this device. You kind of saw it just then anyway, but going like that. The way to make a bigger loop with this gadget is to do it again like that. Make your little loop, sort of fold it over itself, turn it around once, pull it in the head, and then pull it straight out again. And there you are, it comes straight out. And moisten that, that'll have it. And we'll trim that down. Whoop. Trim that down. And there you are, a bigger loop tied with one of these. So just because that head's so small doesn't mean you have to pull it right down to the loop. You can make a bigger loop like that. Now I use a bigger loop for the pole rigs at the top end where it connects to my connector. I find a bigger loop easier to get a rig on and off, and I just prefer it. I think it kicks off a bit nicer, and it's better than a tiny loop, which is what I use at the other end of my pole rigs for connecting a hook length to another hook length. As far as sort of loop sizes go, whether to use a big one or a little one, my hook lengths are generally about 10 mil, and the only exception is if I'm going to be doing a lot of hook hair rigging with bands and that, then I might make it slightly bigger, 15 mil, sometimes 20 mil, because it's easier to thread a band through a 15 or 20 mil loop, especially if you're using bands and when you've got wet and slimy fingers, and you're after a lot of fish. So and you might be changing hook length, like particularly sort of F1 fishing and stuff where you're catching a lot of fish shallow, you quickly need to change hook length. Then a 15 or 20 mil loop is often a bit better, just for getting that loop back, for threading a band or a quick stop or something like that through. So there we are. So right then, and now we'll go for the holy grail, which seems to be what most people are struggling with, and even some top anglers I've seen, and I've not seen any of them advocate tying it this way, but if you want a 2-inch or a 3-inch hook length, it's very, very simple to tie if you know how. So I've tied these ones. I mean, what's that? That's less than 2-inch. So we'll show you how to tie that next. I'm going to get one of my existing hook lengths out, and we'll chop that one down. There we are. So that's a big long hook length. What we're going to do, we're going to chop that down to about 2-inch. I've got jigs and things like that that I use for fixing a loop at 3-inch or 4-inch. I'll put them down there so you can see them as well. So, and these are old, they're as old as hills, these. So just a little bit of wood and a couple of nails. I've got my additional 15cm one there as well, or adjustable one where I keep moving the nails up and down to suit whatever hook length box I'm putting them in. But we won't bother with that for this exercise. I'm just going to show you how to tie this with a loop on the end. You tie your hook first. This is where people get all fingers and thumbs, because they've tied the hook first and they'll be catching their fingers. So it's almost impossible to tie a tiny loop with one of these sort of devices. What you do need instead is a splicing needle, or a gate latch needle. There's various types about, different ones, but what they must have is this splicing needle or gate latch attachment at the end that opens and closes. That way when you pull your loop through, it won't catch. You get them in packs of 2 or 3 from the specimen car sort of counter in your tackle shop, and I use them a lot for puller beads and Dacron connectors and all sorts. I actually use splicing needles quite a lot. I don't see many match anglers using them, but I use them quite a lot. Very, very useful. Okay, so we're going to fix our look. We're going to say, well, make it really, really short, make it hard for myself. I'm going to pinch it there. You see that? That's probably 2.5 inches. Once again, fold it over itself like that, nice and easy. Put your gate latch needle in, twist it, grab with the end, fold it over, fold the gate latch over, and quickly pull through. And there you are, you've created a figure of 8 loop knot, and I'll just pull it tight. You'd obviously moisten it at this point, and there you are. That's quite a big loop, but you can obviously price it down a little bit smaller if you need to. Trim it down. That was pretty effortless and easy. Look at that, ultra short hook length tied with a splicing needle. So there you are, nice and short hook lengths, or different type sizes of loops, all tied with just either a splicing needle or a loop tire. Really, really simple, essential to get to grips with tying rigs like this, or getting to grips with tying loops speedily and efficiently, and the best knot that you can, which I think is a figure of 8. So give it a thumbs up, subscribe up there, and hopefully I'll see you on the bag soon.